Addressing the annual National Conference on Criminal Justice Reforms, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiangi told a forum of stakeholders in the criminal justice system that money launderers and other criminals were taking advantage of the lax financial regulations to manipulate the electoral process. Speaking at the Great Rift Valley Lodge in Naivasha, organized by the National Council of the Administration of Justice, the CS said that the government has identified weak regulations in the amount and sources of campaign funds as a major threat to the credibility of the August general elections. Addressing participants, the CS warned that the country risked a large number of criminals buying their way into the elected offices through the wash funds.
I think a weak regulatory mechanism on campaign financing. We may not solve this problem overnight, but I think for all of us, and this is the appropriate place to discuss it, we need to relook at the law and see how best we can support IBC and law enforcement agencies to enforce campaign financing regulations. Because the amount of money being spent in the campaigns out here is incredible and totally crazy. We are going to have an unprecedented case of voter bribery in Kenya during these elections. And as I've said before, and I'm not shy to say it here again today, if we are not very careful as a country, we're going to launder into elective institutions drug dealers, criminals of unprecedented standards. They are all going to be in our elective institutions. And when they arrive there, you know what they are going to do in terms of compromising the integrity of those institutions, compromising the legislative processes, and all policy-making frameworks in our country.
He expressed his concern over the campaign funds, noting that the country could end up with more than 40% of laundering criminals into the elective offices. He, however, absolved the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) from blame for weak regulatory framework on campaign financing, saying that an ideal stringent legal regime would need a multi-sectoral approach.
I am suggesting, and it's a fact, that we will end up with up to 40% of holders of elective office being very well known and established wash dealers, and so on and so forth. Because those are the ones who are hiring crowds and hiring people from one end of the country to another end. And in some constituencies, the people we are profiling or we are investigating, or the people on Mr. Kinoti's radar, are the leading candidates in some constituencies and in some areas. And well, we chose democracy. So we will live with it. They will be elected, and then we'll face the consequences. But I think if we had a better framework of regulating campaign financing in our country, we would probably find it, easier to deal with these issues.
Compared to 2017, where we managed to contain political temperatures, stop candidates from tearing each other's posters, harassing each other in campaign venues, killing each other in the fields, because the code of conduct, as was designed by the framers of the law, was that it's a quasi-committee of the commission, which then does not require rules of evidence to be followed and the Criminal Procedure Code.
During the Naivasha meeting, the CS also identified abuse of social media as another worrying source of concern on the election security and credibility. To secure the general election, the CS said at least 10,000 specialized officers had been mobilized and deployed under the multi-sectoral approach. He noted that the government would also work closely with IEBC and other stakeholders to ensure that the election was credibly delivered. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati, who was in the meeting, assured Kenyans of free and fair elections, adding that the commission was set for the August 9 polls. Chebukati added that the controversial issue of the two-third majority will be determined in the coming weeks when the commission went through the list of all the names presented by political parties.
Article 81 also talks about ensuring that two-third gender rule is observed. And I think you have been following up in the media. We insisted that parties must then ensure that the lists they submit to us must be gender compliant, and this is in line with the judgment of the High Court in the Katiba case. As of midnight last night, 78 political parties had complied out of 81. So we have 3 who are yet to comply, but we've given them up to the 12th of this month to ensure compliance with the orders of the High Court.